Hello everyone, it's Galina with Waffle Flower Crafts, and today I'm taking a closer look at our August 2026 release. In this video, I also share a few die cutting and assembly tips along the way. So let's start with the birthday theme. This month we have several new birthday products including balloons and cupcakes. The cupcake background texture die and coordinating stencil were a part of our sneak peek club. And I have a separate video showing how to make some sweet birthday cards with those products. That video will also be available on the Waffle Flower YouTube channel. Now I'm showing the balloon frame die in action. This set cuts out the balloon frame base, separate balloons to layer on top, and a few small banners that can be used with or without the balloon frame. You can cut out the balloons from colored cardstock, then add more depth by ink blending around the edges with a similar shade of distress inks. This gives the die cuts a little more dimension while keeping the colors soft and coordinated. I've mounted the balloon frame base onto A2 card panel. For the card base, I choose a cardstock color that was slightly darker than the balloon frame, so the frame will stand out. Next, I layered the remaining die cuts on the top to create a multicolored balloon frame. The smaller balloons can be used on their own as well. You can scatter them around the card and add them near a sentiment or arrange them into your own balloon clusters. For the sentiment, I used a new stamp set called the Your Day stamp set. The larger sentiment fits nicely inside the center of the frame, so it works well as the main focal point. I stamped it with a VersaFine Onyx black ink for a dark, crisp impression. To finish the card, I added plenty of shiny crystals around the frame. Sequins will look lovely here too if you want a softer sparkle. I also added a few small highlights to the balloon with a white gel pen. Those little details help separate the layers and give the balloon a bit more shape. Of course, you can mix and match even more cardstock colors with the balloon frame die. For this card, I used 4 different colors without adding any ink blending. This die is also a great choice for a see-through card, and I couldn't resist making one. I created the card base from the acetate sheet and I cut it out to a standard A2 size card. To attach the balloon frame to the acetate card base, I used strong adhesive tape and placed the frame on the front of the card. I cut another balloon frame from white cardstock and I attached to the back of the acetate directly behind the first frame. This keeps the adhesive hidden and gives the inside of the card a clean finish. I added a white cardstock piece behind it in the same way to cover the adhesive and keep the back of the card neat. To decorate the card, I added small highlights with a white gel pen and a few enamel dots from Waffle Flower Crafts. I stamped the sentiment inside of the card on the teal cardstock panel. For a different look, you can stamp the sentiment directly onto the acetate and leave more room inside for a personal message. Just make sure to use an ink made for stamping on non-porous surfaces, such as Stazon ink. The balloon frame die can also be cut in half, so you can use only a part of the balloons to create a partial balloon background. This is an easy way to change the layout and stretch the die a little further. For this card, I used half of the frame and added a few of the smaller balloons to make them look like they were floating around the scene. I placed the partial balloon frame over a cloudy background, then I added a sentiment in the open area. Those clouds are another new die from our August release, and I will take a closer look at it a little bit later in the video. We also have 2 new large background dies in this release. They give you room to work with the standard A2 cards as well as a larger A7 cards. The Wavy Lines vertical die and Wavy Lines horizontal die create flowing backgrounds for both card orientations. After die cutting, the Wavy lines stay connected, which makes the full background easy to lift and place on your card. If you want to create a multicolored wavy background, you can gently separate the individual lines and cut them from a different color cardstock. While designing this die, I kept in mind that I wanted it to be useful for creating landscape backgrounds too, not just for colorful wavy patterns. After attaching the wavy lines to your card panel, you can also use your favorite nesting dies to cut the different shapes from the finished background. Let me quickly show you how I assembled this background on a standard A2 card. I covered the card base with a double-sided adhesive tape, then I start building the background by placing the stripes from the bottom up. I like starting with the heels for now because I know exactly where I want my focal point sit. And then I can fill remaining space with as many blue sky stripes as possible. Here is a closer look at the same design in two different card sizes. On the left is a standard A2 card and on the right is a larger A7 card. Once you separate the individual wave stripes, you can combine them with other texture dies as well. For this card, I paired the waves with the grass texture die from one of our previous releases. Before adding the texture, I ink blended along the edges of each stripe to give them a little more depth. Then I run them through my die cutting machine with the texture die. And here is the cloud background die I mentioned earlier. This die works with both vertical and horizontal cards. You can move it up or down on your card panel to change the placement of clouds and create a slightly different background each time. The frame around the clouds keeps all of those die cut pieces connected, which makes the background much easier to lift, position, and adhere to the card panel. You can leave the clouds completely white for a clean look or add a little bit of ink blending around the edges to create more depth. I like pairing this die with a simple ink blended sky, but it also works beautifully with a wavy lines die when you want to build a full landscape scene. I thought this background was a great match for my golf-themed card. To finish the design, I decut golfing couple from black cardstock to create the silhouettes. Then I hit emboss the sentiment with white embossing powder so it will stand out against the darker background. Speaking of golf bag, this die is called the Gun Golfing die and I want to show you how quickly it comes together. I like cutting out the small metal elements from the thin adhesive metal sheets. The metallic finish gives those pieces a more realistic look, and the adhesive backing makes the tiny parts easier to attach. For the main die-cut back piece, I cut the pieces from 3 different cardstock colors. I mixed light and dark brown cardstock to separate the layers and add a little contrast. And I have to mention those tiny pockets on the back. They're such a sweet detail and add so much character to the finished die cut. The golf ball is made from 2 die cut pieces, which helps give it a little more shape and dimension. Just layer the 2 pieces together to create the finished golf ball. The small oval die is designed for creating the golf holes. So you can cut it from brown cardstock and attach it on the top of the green cardstock for a simple layered look, or you can use this oval die cut to cut opening on a green cardstock and foam mount it on a brown card panel. Here I have a few more A2 cards made with a gun golfing die. The golf bag is detailed enough to be the main focal point on its own, so you don't need to add many other elements around. And here is another card I made using double die cutting technique. I first created the striped panel, then I cut out a circle from it to make a shaped focal background. For all of these cards I used 2 new stamp sets called the Retirement Sentiment stamp set and the Golf Pants stamp set. Both sets also have a coordinating dies, which makes it easy to add the sentiments as small layered elements. Some of the sentiments were heat embossed with white embossing powder on a black cardstock, while others were stamped with VersaFine Onyx black ink for a clean, crisp impression. Now let's move to another playful die set called the Reel in Die. We marked all of the small pieces to make the assembly process easier. You'll find matching numbers on the dies and on the negative space left after you die cut the small elements. So you can quickly see where each little detail belongs. On the base layer of the fish, you can color the eye with a black pen or marker if you want to add a little bit extra definition. Then layer the remaining pieces one by one over the base. There are a lot of ways to play with color on this fish. You can mix several cardstock shades, create a simple two color design, or add metallic pieces for extra shine. The hand I cut has two small areas where you need apply glue. I kept that extra hand piece because it gives the hand a more realistic shape and makes it look like it actually holding the fishing rod. For the reel, I cut one piece from gold mirror cardstock and the other from regular colored cardstock. Mixing the two type finishes adds contrast and makes the tiny details stand out. To attach the fishing line, you will find 4 small tabs on the main die cut. For the second section of the fishing line, there are 3 larger tabs shaped to match the curves on the line. These little guides make it easy to see exactly where the die cut should be attached. The left side of the fishing rod die cut has a straight edge, so you can line it up with the edge of your card panel for a quick and accurate positioning. The fishing rod works the same way on a larger A7 card. Just align the straight edge on the die with the edge of the card panel. Then build the rest of the scene around it. On the A7 card on the right, I mixed stripes from the Wavy lines die cut to create the water background. I finished the card with the shimmering sequins, placing them around the fish to imitate water bubbles or little flashes of light reflecting from its scales. For smaller card scenes, we have another new set called the Gone Fishing Die. This set cuts out a little fishing boat with a fisherman inside. You can cut his clothes from different colors of cardstock and layer those pieces over the base die cut to customize his outfit. The smallest die let you change details like his hair and head color. You can also create the fisherman with or without the die cut head, depending on the look you want. The smaller fishing rod has tabs similar to a larger version, which makes it easier to position and attach the fishing line. Here is a closer look at both of my fishing themed cards. The card on the left has more of a close-up view. The second card shows a wider landscape scene with the boat on the lake. You can also combine both ideas on the larger card sizes and create a more detailed fishing scene with boat, fishing rod, fish, and extra landscape elements. To create the backgrounds for both cards, I use the lake scene Die-n-stencil. I also use some of the smaller dies from this set to add extra details to my cards, including the flying birds, little ducks, and smaller boats. These small pieces from the lake scene Die-n-stencil are especially nice for creating silhouette scenes. Just cut them out from a black cardstock and place them over the lighter background. Let me quickly show you how this set works. Start by cutting the mountain and lake pieces from colored cardstock. Then use the coordinating stencil and inks to add shading and details to the die cuts. Of course, you can also cut out all of these pieces from white cardstock and color them completely with inks. This gives you much more control over the colors and creates a very different look. You can place both die cuts directly onto a colored card panel, but I recommend adding a little ink blending to the background first. A soft sunset or sunrise behind the landscape adds more depth and interest to your card. The mountain and lake pieces can be placed near the center of the card, or you can move them higher or lower to change the layout. Even a small shift in placement can create a very different card design. And here is one more technique you can use with a stencil. You may have noticed the shiny details on the water in the card with the silhouettes. I created that effect with a Versamark ink and a clear embossing powder. Apply Versamark ink through the stencil in the same way you would apply a regular ink. Then remove the stencil, add clear embossing powder and heat set it to create a shiny water details. And I think the mountain may be my favorite piece from this set. I also like that all of the die cuts can be used separately to create a simpler card design. For example, on this card I used only the mountain die cut and I colored it with the shades of green. I added a few blackbird silhouettes around it, then I finished the card with clear enamel dots. On my other card, I used only the smaller die cuts from the lake scene Die-n-stencil, along with a small fishing rod from Gone Fish and Die, to create a peaceful nature scene. Next, I want to show you a new addition to the Postage Collage family. We have 5 new cloud stencil sets designed for different card sizes called the Postage Collage Airmail stencils. Each set includes 2 stencils that allow you to color the sky background, the clouds, and the new larger airmail border around the main postage design. You can stencil the clouds directly onto the Postage Collage die panel, then add the airmail border to the card base. Once the Postage Collage panel is attached, it will neatly cover any extra ink that may have extended into the center of the card base. The Postage Collage Airmail stencil also coordinates with all sizes of Postage Collage Wavy line stencil, which was released earlier. I like combining the ground layer from the Wavy line stencil with the 2 layers from the Airmail stencil. Together they create a small, complete scene inside each postage opening. Once the backgrounds are finished, you can stamp small images over them or add a few tiny die cuts to complete the card. Here you can see all of the card sizes I created with the Postage Collage A7 Airmail stencil. For these cards, I also used 2 new silhouette stamp sets called the Postage Collage Golf Silhouette Stamp Set and the Postage Collage Fishing Silhouette Stamp Set. I like seeing how the same stamp set can create a different look depending on the card format. For most of these cards I use the smaller punch stamp sets, and on the A6 card I added a larger sentiment heat embossed in white on a black cardstock. Both sentiment styles work well with these designs. I also played with several different color combinations for the skies, clouds and ground. Each one changes the mood of the card, so it's difficult for me to choose my favorite. I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough of August release. I had a great time working with all of the die cutting, ink blending and layered scenes, and I like how easily the different products can be mixed together. Let me know in the comments which card or product caught your eye the most. Thank you so much for watching, have a great day, and I will see you again soon in the next video. Bye!